David David's Sling and Shield: The Evolution of Israel's Special Forces and the Doctrine of Unconventional Warfare. Introduction: The strategic culture of Israeli warfare. Modern Israeli military doctrine is widely recognized for its emphasis on speed, intelligence, surprise, and decisive offensive action. In contrast to our large conventional armies built around mass formations and prolonged campaigns, Israel developed a military culture centered on agility, innovation, and elite small unit operations. This approach was not merely a tactical preference, but a strategic necessity, born from geography, demography, and constant security threats. Israel is a small state surrounded historically by adversaries with larger populations and military forces. Consequently, Israeli military planners had to construct a system that could compensate for numerical inferiority through superior training, intelligence gathering, and surgical operations. The development of Israel's special forces represents one of the most important pillars of this doctrine. These units operate as the sling of the Israeli state, small but capable of delivering devastating blows with precision and speed. Over decades, they have carried out intelligence missions, counter-terrorism operations, sabotage campaigns, hostage rescues, strategic strikes far beyond Israeli borders. Their legacy reflects a blend of British commando doctrine, Jewish paramilitary experience during the British Mandate period, and Israel's own innovation in unconventional warfare. The story of Israel's special forces begins long before the formal creation of the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF. It begins with a British officer who profoundly influenced Jewish paramilitary strategy in the 1930s and helped shape the operational DNA of the Israeli elite units. The Wingate Doctrine: Origins of the Israeli Special Warfare. Orde Wingate and the birth of offensive commando warfare. One of the most influential figures in the development of Israel's special warfare doctrine was Orde Wingate, a British officer stationed in Mandatory Palestine during the late 1930s. Wingate was a deeply religious Christian Zionist who strongly supported the Jewish community in Palestine and believed that Jews had a historical right to the land. During the Arab Revolt between 1936 and 1939, tensions between the Arab groups and Jewish settlements escalated into widespread violence. British authorities struggled to maintain order and Jewish communities faced frequent attacks on settlements and infrastructure. Wingate proposed a radical solution. Instead of waiting defensively for attacks, Jewish fighters should conduct aggressive night raids against hostile forces. Wingate organized a commando force called the Special Night Squads (SNS). These small units consisted of British soldiers and Jewish volunteers who conducted nighttime reconnaissance, ambushes, and raids deep into hostile territory. Their philosophy was simple yet revolutionary: offense is the best defense. Rather than protecting settlements passively, the SNS sought to disrupt enemy operations before attack could be launched. The SNS operated in small mobile groups capable of moving quickly and striking with surprise. Their operations involved infiltrating into villages suspected of harboring militants, destruction of supply networks, and targeted raids against insurgent bases. Although the Special Night Squads existed only briefly, they had a profound long-term impact on Jewish military thinking. Many of the Jewish fighters trained by Wingate later became leaders in the Israeli military establishment. One of the most famous among them was Moshe Dayan, who later served as Israel's chief of staff and minister of defense. Dayan famously described Wingate as a military genius, acknowledging the immense influence his ideas had on Israel's future military doctrine. Wingate's emphasis on aggressive unconventional warfare became a foundational element of Israeli strategic culture. Unit 101: The birth of Israel's modern commando forces. Ariel Sharon and the institutionalization of special forces. Following the establishment of Israel in 1948, the young state faced persistent infiltration and attacks from hostile groups operating across its border. Israeli leadership reorganized that traditional defensive strategies were insufficient. Instead, they required a force capable of conducting retaliatory strikes and destroying enemy bases beyond Israel's border. In 1953, Ariel Sharon, then a young Israeli officer who would later become the prime minister, created Unit 101, Israel's first official commando unit. Unit 101 was built around the same principles pioneered by Wingate's special night squads: mobility, surprise, and offensive action. The unit conducted raids into neighboring territories where guerrilla fighters were believed to be operating. These missions were extremely risky and often involved crossing international borders under the cover of darkness. Unit 101 introduced several innovations that became standard for Israeli special operations: infiltration deep into enemy territory, rapid assault techniques, demolition and sabotage operations, close coordination with intelligence agencies. The unit operated directly under the Israeli General Staff than rather than through conventional military command chains, reflecting its strategic importance. Although Unit 101 achieved tactical success by reducing cross-border attacks, some of its operations generated controversy due to civilian casualties. Eventually, the unit was integrated into Israel's Paratrooper Brigade in 1954. Nevertheless, its operational methods became the blueprint for future Israeli commando forces. Sayeret Matkal, Israel's Strategic Reconnaissance Unit, the creation of an elite intelligence commando force. In 1957, Israel established Sayeret Matkal, one of the most famous special forces units in the world. The unit was originally designated for deep reconnaissance missions behind enemy lines. Its role was to gather strategic intelligence that could not be obtained through conventional means. Sayeret Matkal was modeled partly on the British Special Air Service, the SAS, later came to resemble American elite units such as the Delta Force. From its inception, Sayeret Matkal was highly secretive. Soldiers were carefully selected through rigorous evaluation and were often recruited through personal recommendations. Members of the unit were not allowed to publicly reveal their identities, and they didn't wear distinctive insignia that would identify them as Special Forces personnel. Training for Sayeret Matkal recruits lasted approximately 2 years and focused on advanced reconnaissance techniques, camouflage and stealth operations, surviving behind enemy lines, close quarters combat, navigations in hostile terrain. These soldiers were trained to operate independently in enemy territory for extended periods without support. Legendary operations of Sayeret Matkal, Operation Spring of Youth, one of the most daring operations conducted by Sayeret Matkal, occurred in April 1973. Following the massacre of Israeli athletes at the Munich Olympics by Palestinian militants, Israel launched a global campaign to eliminate those responsible. In Operation Spring of Youth, Israeli commandos infiltrated Beirut to target leaders of militant organizations. The operation required extraordinary planning and deception. Commanders landed on the Lebanese coast using rubber boats and were transported through the city in civilian vehicles by Mossad agents. To avoid detection, some of the soldiers disguised themselves as couples walking through the streets. In a remarkable detail, Commander Ehud Barak dressed as a woman to blend in with civilians. Once they reached their targets, the commandos simultaneously stormed multiple buildings and eliminated key militants. The entire operation lasted only minutes before the teams withdrew back to the coast and escaped. This mission demonstrated the extraordinary coordination between intelligence agencies and special forces that became a hallmark of Israeli military operations. Operation Entebbe, one of the most famous rescue missions in history. Perhaps the most famous operation carried out by Sayeret Matkal was the Entebbe hostage rescue mission in July 1976. Palestinian and German terrorists hijacked an Air France flight traveling from Tel Aviv to Paris, diverted it to Entebbe airport in Uganda. The hostages were held with the support of Uganda's dictator Idi Amin. After days of negotiation, Israel decided to launch a rescue mission thousands of kilometers away from its territory. Israeli planners devised a daring plan. Commandos would fly to Uganda in transport aircraft, storm the airport, eliminate the terrorists, and rescue the hostages. On July 3, 1976, Israeli aircraft flew approximately 4,000 kilometers to Uganda. Under the cover of darkness, the first plane landed undetected. Israeli commandos rapidly moved towards the terminal building where the hostages were held. Within minutes, the terrorists were eliminated and the hostages were set free. The entire operation lasted less than an hour. Although the mission was an overwhelming success, it came at a cost. Three hostages were killed in the crossfire, and Jonathan Netanyahu, the commander of the assault force and the brother of future Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, was killed during the operation. The mission was later named Operation Jonathan in his honor. The Entebbe raid became one of the most celebrated special operations in the modern military history. Shayetet 13, Israel's naval commandos, masters of maritime warfare. Another critical component of Israel's special forces structure is Sayeret 13, the naval commando unit often compared to the US Navy SEALs. Shayetet 13 specializes in maritime infiltration, underwater sabotage, and sea-based counterterrorism operations. Their missions include attacking enemy ships, infiltrating coastal installations, destroying naval infrastructure, and conducting underwater demolition. During the Yom Kippur War in 1973, Shayetet 13 commandos infiltrated Egyptian ports and successfully sank multiple warships. In later decades, the unit played a major role in intercepting arms shipments destined for military groups. The Karin A operation. One notable mission occurred in January 2002 when Israeli intelligence discovered that a cargo ship named Karin A was transporting a large weapons shipment from Iran to Palestinian militants. Israeli naval commandos boarded the ship in the Red Sea approximately 500 kilometers from Israel's port of Eilat. In a swift and coordinated operation, the commandos seized the vessel without firing a single shot. Hidden inside the ship were 36 tons of weapons, including missiles, rockets, grenades, as well as landmines. This interception demonstrated Israel's ability to project special operations capabilities far beyond its immediate borders. Shaldag, the Air Force Commando Unit, Airborne Special Operations. In the 1970s, Israeli officer Muki Betzer founded Shaldag, a special forces unit belonging to the Israeli Air Force. The creation of this unit was largely influenced by the lessons learned during the Yom Kippur War, when Israeli aircraft suffered heavy losses from Soviet-made surface-to-air missiles deployed by Egypt. Israeli planners realized that neutralizing enemy air defense systems would be crucial in future conflicts. Shaldag Commando specializes in forward air control, target designation for airstrikes, reconnaissance of enemy air defenses, sabotage of missile installations. During the 1982 Lebanon War, Shaldag units played a key role in destroying Syrian air defense systems in Lebanon, enabling Israeli aircraft to dominate the skies. The modern Israeli commando structure, the Oz Commando Brigade. In recent years, the reorganized several Israel has reorganized several elite units under the Oz Commando Brigade, a unified structure designed to improve coordination between specialized forces. The brigade includes several elite units: Dud Divan, undercover counterterrorism operations in Palestinian territories; EGOS, guerrilla warfare specialists; Maglan, deep reconnaissance and long-range precision strikes; and Rimon, desert warfare specialist. Duvdevan soldiers undergo intensive training to blend into Palestinian territory. They learn Arabic dialects, cultural customs, behavioral patterns in order to operate undercover within hostile environments. Strategic philosophy, the legacy of the Sling. Despite technological advancement and organizational changes, Israel's special forces remain rooted in strategic principles established by Orde Wingate's Special Night Squad nearly a century ago. These principles include proactive offensive action, surprise and deception, small elite units rather than large formations, integration of intelligence with combat operations, rapid decision making, and operational flexibility. Israel's special forces are often composed largely of conscripts rather than career soldiers, a unique feature compared to many Western militaries. Yet, these units maintain extremely high standards through intense selection process and rigorous training. Conclusion: the evolution of Israel's special forces demonstrates how a small nation can compensate for limited manpower through innovation and elite training. From the Special Night Squad of the 1930s to the modern Oz Commando Brigade, Israel has continuously refined its approach to unconventional warfare. These units serve as a strategic instruments capable of striking targets with precision, gathering critical intelligence and rescuing hostages in situations where conventional military forces would be ineffective. Their operations have shaped global perceptions of special warfare and influenced military doctrines worldwide. Ultimately, Israel's special forces embody the metaphor suggested by the title David's slings and shield. Like the biblical David facing a much larger adversary, Israel relies on skill, precision, and strategic ingenuity rather than sheer size. Through elite units capable of executing daring missions across the globe, the Israeli military has transformed small forces into powerful tools capable of altering the course of conflicts far beyond the battlefield.